am buying. I'm believing in BYU. I'm believing in Texas Tech, especially after their win at Iowa State, which that told me more about Iowa State than it did Texas Tech. It exposed to me more holes in Iowa State than it told me about where I think Texas Tech, because I already know that Tech is that kind of world beater, bloody you defensive juggernaut. For Iowa State, that's a wound, and that BYU loss after Richie Saunders went out. Those are both wounds that I go, oh, whoa, Iowa State, where'd that come from? But even still, so Texas Tech, BYU, I'm going to have them in the conversation. TCU, who's angling toward an NCAA tournament bid. UCF. Shade, the reason I think those are Sweet 16 caliber teams is because when we get into this thing, and BYU has a first-round matchup against Miami of Ohio, who I think is good, but they find a way to pull it off and win. And in the second round, they play Nebraska, or maybe Illinois, maybe Purdue or Virginia. I think the strength of the Big 12, the net of the Big 12, can propel a TCU, UCF, BYU, Texas Tech into a Sweet 16 or Elite 8 when you start pairing them against teams like Alabama or Tennessee out of the SEC, teams like a Miami of Ohio. That's where I believe this conference will thrive, because the league schedule has seasoned these rosters so well.
It is. And that's where, it's like you look up every night and not every night because we don't play every night, but there's a Big 12 matchup that's like, oh, good luck doing that. And it's not even just these top 5 or 6 teams. It's like, look, I know Utah's not great, but good luck going up to that elevation and doing stuff, right? Like, good luck heading up to Boulder and knocking off the Buffs, whatever it is, right? And so it just feels like nightly that you have to deal with something. Going down to Orlando, right? Like, I feel like UCF wins more often than you expect in some of those crazy games. Johnny's just got it cooking, And so, Drake, these nightly tests, again, I know we're talking about the Big 12 being top heavy, but I think the middle, as you said, and even some of the bottom is better than we give it credit for, around the country or where, however you want to say it. Look, like, I know Kansas State is just kind of falling off right now, but they've still got PJ Haggerty you got to contend with, right? Like, Oklahoma State has fallen off since some of what we maybe thought about them earlier. But Hank Iba, man, it's a tough place to go play. And so there is never like just truly a night off where it's like you can sleepwalk through it. Like the Big East. The Big East legitimately is only going to get 3 teams into the tournament this year. And it's crazy. Like the bottom of the Big East is awful. The Big 12 does not provide that. And while it's tougher in the slog of January and February, ultimately, Drake, as you're saying, that's so much better for these teams because they're so much more battle tested coming into March. You look at I respect everything Miami of Ohio and what they've done. Like, I'm so proud of them. It's so cool. What a neat story. But Drake, not only have they not won any quad 1 games, they haven't played a quad 1 game. Like, they are poor guys. They're just not going to be ready for March. And I hate it for them, but it's true.
I also really like them. I hate disparaging them.
Yeah, exactly, man.
But I do think they'll end up with an 11 seed, a 10 seed maybe. And people will say, well, the AP poll. I know, but the AP poll is a very different thing.
That's exactly right.
Than how we seed these teams for March Madness. Miami of Ohio will not be a top 4 seed or 5 seed, despite the AP poll having them somewhere in that range. Let's camp out for a second with a BYU or a Texas Tech. Both similar situations. Lose a star player to a lower body injury. But one of the teams has responded by just winning. Texas Tech is just winning. BYU, on the other hand, they've had a pretty tumultuous last week and a half, 2 weeks. 2 teams, different trajectories. I think Texas Tech, even without JT Toppin, this is word soup here, but what I want to communicate to listeners of Locked On Big 12, what I want them to know at the water cooler is today, a 3 seed upsetting a 1 seed is the same thing 5 years ago as an 8 seed upsetting a 1 seed. The gap between 1 and 3, the gap between Duke and Texas Tech right now with JT Toppin out is large. It's continuing to grow. The Tech, though, they're that team that I could still see go, you know what? Yep, they're a Final Four squad because of Grant McCasland. BYU's a Sweet 16 team. I don't see a world right now where I can take them past the Elite 8.
Yeah. Let's start with Tech. What I love about Tech, dude, it's the second that JT Toppin injury was announced coming off of that Arizona State game where that injury happened, everybody started writing them off immediately because you got the reigning Big 12 Player of the Year done and gone, right? Yeah. Like in BYU's case, you still had 2/3 of the government working for you. And to quote Mars Attacks, that ain't bad, right? And so that's the good news because there's still AJ, there's still Rob. With Texas Tech, it's been this big two of JT and Christian Anderson. And so at that point, it was like, man, CA is going to have to take a lot on his shoulders, right? And he did. Those first two games that Tech played right after that, Kansas State and Cincinnati, both at home, he did just about everything. But what I love, Drake, that Iowa State win over the weekend, not only was it critically important because it was away, because it showed us and voters what they can still do, because yes, as you just said, Grant McCasland is a dude of a coach. It was not just Christian Anderson, just a spread out offensive attack, 5 or 6 different double figures. I think it was 6. I'm not looking at the box score right now. But what I love is that you've got other guys stepping up, right? Donovan Outwell stepping up, doing Lawan Watts stepping in, doing some of these things as you need. You're finally getting a little healthier. Luke Bamboye coming back, some other things like that where guys are stepping into that. There is no one player for Texas Tech that's going to fill JT's shoes. You just can't. But man, the tough-nosed grit with which they play is insane to me. And when you say that, it makes you think defense. That Texas Tech offense is 9th in the country in offensive efficiency right now. And what I love is I said everyone initially wrote them all the way off after the injury. I love that this week there was a nice response back in the other direction. Texas Tech was the biggest riser in the brand new AP poll that came out on Monday, going up 6 spots. So I love that people kind of owned it. Like I've said on our show, I've seen other national people saying, hey, we thought Tech would fall off. They haven't. 3-0. And looking forward, they've got TCU at home coming up Tuesday night. And then oddly and ironically enough, the other ACL-ridden team, they're at BYU to wrap the regular season Saturday. And so, Drake, I guess that takes us then to BYU, which, as you said, has not been able to live up and do it at the same level that Texas Tech had. Now, 1-3, after the Richie Saunders injury, losing to Arizona, UCF, West Virginia, but beating Iowa State. Oddly enough, they've both. And so that's kind of the weird thing here. BYU, I'm concerned about, Drake. I got to be honest. I liked them. I was already of the Big 6 in the Big 12. I had them at the bottom of that even before Richie's injury. And so I'm nervous. I'm nervous for the Cougars. I got to be honest.
I think BYU fans are also pretty nervous here, but last year was a monumental year for them, and I'm going to say only because in the context of the Big 12, the expectation is the top teams are in the Final Four. They only made the Sweet 16. So they do that again.
Well, they got blitzed by Bama. Good grief.
Yeah, they did. That was one of the greatest shooting performances I've ever seen from a college basketball team. Don't remind them. Don't remind them.
I shan't. We rescind. We rescind.
And I think that if BYU does make the Sweet 16, they'd be like, yeah, we're happy. Cool. Expectation met for where the expectation was reset post Richie Saunders. Coming up, it will not be a very happy time for Kelvin Sampson if they only make the Sweet 16. Or Arizona and Tommy Lloyd. Who will make the Final Four out of the Big 12? This is a Locked On Big 12, Locked On College Basketball crossover. Today's show is brought to you by Indeed Sponsored Jobs. Why? That's because I use Indeed Sponsored Jobs to hire interns for Locked On Big 12. Deadlines are stacking up, workplace chaos, inbox overflowing. In the minute I've been talking to you, companies like yours made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide, with Indeed Sponsored Jobs. So all the other stuff you got going on, let Indeed help hire for you. This is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs. And right now, listeners of this show get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your job the premium status it deserves. Indeed.com/podcast, Indeed.com/podcast. And tell them you heard about it on Locked On Big 12. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need a hire? This is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs. Oh, hello. Today's show is also sponsored by FanDuel. College basketball, nonstop, big games, tight spreads, momentum swings every single night, early tip-offs to late-night West Coast shootouts. You can build any college hoops parlay you want. Rivalry games, ranked matchups, whatever fits this right here. You'll love the Big 12. You can mix spreads, totals, and player props to match how you see the slate playing out. Go safe. Go bold. Ride with a team you've been following all season. It's your parlay, your style, now with more upside behind it. Head to FanDuel.com to get started. FanDuel.com. FanDuel, play your game and do it with FanDuel.